All right? Big round of applause for Kiya.
So technically, my love affair with rock and roll started when I was 3 or 4 years old. You know, when most kids start listening to rock and roll. So I would be in car rides with my parents and, you know, get out of control like a little kid would. And the only thing that would calm me down would be rock and roll. I was to become a very interesting child. But when I started learning my love for rock and roll, it started within 7th grade. I started listening to Pandora, and I came across Led Zeppelin. I began listening to Led Zeppelin constantly. I could not get enough of him. He was classic. He had the sound that I wanted, and he just kept keeping me interested. The first song I listened to, funny enough, was Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. And that's where my love for rock and roll kickstarted. Then I moved on to artists like Alice Cooper. And funnily enough, my dad's first concert was Alice Cooper when he was 15. He lived in a very Catholic household, and he snuck out and went to a concert, Alice Cooper. My meme thought Alice Cooper was a woman. She did not know anything about Alice Cooper. So I kept on listening to rock and roll. I discovered new artists. I discovered classic rock. I discovered hard rock. I got very into AC/DC and Metallica, and I kept on discovering these layers. I like to call it the perfect trio: the drums, bass, guitar. It's all you need for a band. Add some synthesizer in there sometimes, and you're good to go. So I was in my bedroom listening to Led Zeppelin, doing algebra homework, because, you know, that's what people do when they do their algebra homework. And I remember very distinctly listening to Stairway to Heaven and thinking, boy, this is supposed to be his best song? That's wrong. I thought Stairway to Heaven was completely overrated and hated it. So I went back to rock and roll and loved it. My uncle fed my addiction. He kept on making me CDs, and it was like the greatest thing on the planet. So to this day, I still listen to a lot of rock and roll, mainly harder stuff, but it's the way I relieve my stress. I will go on a run and I will just blast AC/DC. I like to mention that I am hard of hearing. So when you put a hard of hearing person and bass together, it's magical. You just blast it. Everybody thinks you're crazy because they can hear it. They're like, aren't you blowing out your eardrums? And I'm going, no, this is fantastic. Leave me alone. So recently I ran my first 5K, and I got 2nd place in my age group. And I was listening to Led Zeppelin while I ran this 5K. It was magical, to say the least. So the lesson is, I love rock and roll, and my love affair started with Led Zeppelin, and it has continued on to add a lot of different artists within the genre, but I will always come back to Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. Thank you.